Back in the win column, Arizona beats BYU. It was a tough game. It was a game that was needed for Arizona to show their resilience, show their mettle, and Anthony Dell'Orso showed up when they needed him very most. We'll discuss the game next on Locked On Wildcats Postcast.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here. Arizona back in the win column, 24-2, and the depth is the story. BYU, I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room first and foremost. Arizona and BYU were both without important players. Koa Pete out and Aristode out, but Richie Saunders was out as well. And Richie Saunders means a ton, makes them a far less dangerous team. But what happened was what should happen. Arizona's depth, even though it was thinned, outshined AJ Dybantsa's stellar performance, and it was AJ and Rob Wright against the Arizona Wildcats. And Arizona is going to win that matchup every single time. In the losses that Arizona's had against Kansas and against Texas Tech, they were without Koa Pete effectively. And in those losses, they were up for 31 minutes against Kansas and up for 37 of them against Texas Tech. And we're leading by 7 with 3 minutes to go in that one. But in this game, you knew they were going to progress to the mean. You weren't going to see as bad of a performance from Jaden Bradley. And I want to shout out him first and foremost because I've been very critical of him. Jaden Bradley played like a leader, like a veteran in this game. Jaden Bradley, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists. And when Arizona was kind of struggling, it was 23-23 in that first half, he saw the zone. And he said, okay, you're going to zone or you're going to wall up and help early. I'm going to orchestrate this. Maybe Tommy Lloyd told him to, but he orchestrated and executed it well. Drive left, find Braden Burris, hit a 3. Dell'Orso, he deserves an enormous shout out as well. Anthony Dell'Orso has struggled. We talked about this in the pregame or the preview I did with Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars. That if one guy was going to step up, I think the guy who would start would be Awaka, but the one who needed to score was Anthony Dell'Orso, and boy, did he answer the bell. 8 of 15 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, 22 points, 4 boards, and the timeliness of his buckets early when Arizona was really struggling to find the rhythm. Bradley set up Dell'Orso and Burris to hit threes. And you know what? I talked about in the little 10-minute show that I did, and I hope some of you guys listened. The everydayers in here, Rick and Tyler, the guys that are always in here. Appreciate you guys. But if you guys didn't see it, it would be a worthwhile watch. I talked about what changes when Koa Pete is out, why it could be a blessing in disguise. And my main reason for optimism about time without Koa Pete was, hey, someone's got to step up. And what likely is, because Arizona is so dominant in the paint, it means it's likely going to be more three-point shooting. So the guy that naturally has to step up in that role because he's been subpar this season has been Anthony Dell'Orso. Dell'Orso hit 4 threes. Burris didn't play particularly well, had 11 points on 4 of 13 shooting, but he hit 3 threes, and I would say 2 of them were pretty timely ones as well. He was a toe away from having 4 threes in this game. And Arizona as a team hit 9 threes of 9 of 21, nearly 50% from the field from 3. And this is a team that typically dominates the paint, and points in the paint they actually lost in this game, which is exceedingly rare. So what happened is Arizona found if this doesn't work, if option A doesn't work and option B is not available, and every team is going to send doubles and make us shoot, we can knock down shots. And I think they did a good job adjusting defensively because I was very frustrated in the first half. And CD Gay, I see the comments in here. Roberto, you're right. CD Gay played very well. I was very frustrated in the first half with the defensive coverages on AJ Dybantsa. AJ Dybantsa in the first half made every shot he took against non-Ivan Karchenkov defenders. Every single one. And when Karchenkov guarded him, he didn't make any. So while that was unlikely to persist because, one, it's really, really hard to make every shot, and it's really unlikely that a guy as good as AJ is going to miss every shot when Karchenkov guards him, I thought those switching defenses seemed silly. I thought it was weird to switch defensively every time. And I was frustrated maybe holding over the frustration against Texas Tech where they switched everything and Karchenkov had to guard Toppin, which he was not a great matchup for. So I was happy to see the adjustments, fighting over some screens, make AJ work really hard. And if you look at the second half defensively, Arizona until the final couple minutes, second half, they did a great job. They held BYU to 12 of 29 shooting, and it was just AJ. AJ had 19 of the 33 points. Kennard Davis Jr. hit a couple late, but those weren't like in rhythm. They were fast breaks or at the free throw line. He hit a 3, a layup, and 5 free throws. He played with force. He did a good job at the end. But really, it was just AJ. And if you were to say who's going to be the next guy up, it's going to be Rob Wright. Had a pretty good first half. Second half was a complete non-factor. Went 1 of 6 with 2 points. And Rob Wright is a guy who needs the ball in his hands. And AJ and Rob don't necessarily coexist. Arizona played into that and said, okay, yeah, we're going to guard and make you guys give up the ball, but also keep the ancillary pieces from hitting threes. That was one of the keys we talked about with Jake Hatch. Arizona needed to make sure that no one other than Rob Wright and AJ Dybantsa were going to score the ball, because Rob and AJ aren't going to beat Dell'Orso as the sixth man scoring 22 and the rest of the team scoring a bunch of points as a unit. Ivan Karchenkov and Anthony Dell'Orso are fantastic in different ways. Karchenkov hit some threes. That's a huge confidence. I hope that carries over. And what gives me so much optimism, I'll go over some stats on this, but I want to talk about the larger picture. Like, the narrative around Arizona basketball has been largely from you guys, but especially nationally. Is this team a national championship contender, or have they been masquerading around as pretenders the whole time just because they lost 2 games without one of their most important player active and or healthy in Koa Pete? So to me, I thought it was a silly narrative, but also it holds water if Koa Pete's out that this team's not national championship good. I think that's true. But if Koa Pete plays and is Koa Pete, there's more spacing, there's better offense, and there's better depth. Arizona demonstrated they have more depth than many knew. C.D. Gay and Evan Nelson played well. Arizona demonstrated that when push comes to shove, they can find a way to score in creative manners, with Bradley probing the paint and kicking the ball out, and Ivan Karchenkov, Anthony Dell'Orso can hit threes. Is it sustainable to shoot as well as they did? Maybe not, but it's also unlikely that Burry struggles as much as he did in this game. I don't think you would call this a particularly good Awaka game. Tobe Awaka, he was limited. Tobe had 3 points and 6 boards. Mo Krivas, 5 points, 7 boards. It was never going to be a game dominated by the interior because they double-teamed everything, but that's because Arizona hadn't shot the ball in times before. And in other games, when the baseline was jam-packed and loaded up, Arizona didn't have answers. Tommy Lloyd practiced, adjusted. Jaden Bradley got into the paint and looked to pass, and that was a huge thing. And Arizona came up with alternative ways to make up points. And their defense is still, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best in the country. And they can keep them in any bit of the game. Oh, Daniel, I appreciate that. I'm going to pull up that comment on the screen. I took a nap, missed most of the game, but there's no way I'll miss a Locked On postcast. I love it, Daniel. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll give you the scoop on the game coming up in a moment. I just want to talk about the ramifications. No Koa Pete. I think there's a silver lining that other guys learn to play with more confidence. And, you obviously want to maintain pace and keep the seed lines and all that. We'll talk about some of that in a moment as well. But Arizona found other ways to score the ball. They kept their impressive defense. Keeping BYU, who's one of the elites offensively, to 68 points is no small task, even without Richie Saunders. Arizona made the game so ugly in the second half for BYU. It had to be AJ on every possession. And you know what? I need to end one stat here before I get into stats in the second segment that tell the story of the game. But this is the biggest stat of the game. 16 assists to 7. Arizona shared the ball, even without some of their weapons, even without the interior presence, only scoring 26 points in the paint for the second consecutive game, actually, strangely enough. Arizona still had 16 assists, which leads to buckets. A lot of them threes, a couple alley-oops. And Jaden Bradley had 10 of them and was the tone setter, and he showed his seniority, his presence, and how he can facilitate. Often we praise him for his defense and his penetration. In this game, the facilitation was huge, and the rest of the guys stepped up and made shots and showing why they're great players that can play on this Arizona roster, even when Koa plays, even when the other guys play. Those guys are on Arizona's roster for a reason. Karchenkov, the reason is defense and being a gritty glue guy. he showed that he's a pro basketball player today. Knocked down shots, made big moves, and Jaden Bradley led the troops. We're going to touch on the stats that tell the story of this game, and also UConn went down. That bodes really nicely for Arizona, and Houston fell to Iowa State. That also bodes nicely for Arizona. We'll give a slight preview on Houston, but next we're going to talk about the stats that tell the story of this game. And Arizona, back in the win column, baby. It feels good. All that and more next on Locked On Wildcats Postcast. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one position you have to fill sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, the skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles fortunately across your post. And here's a stat for you guys. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time checking, less time searching, and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard it about Indeed in this podcast, Locked On Wildcats. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back to Locked On Wildcats Postcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, especially the everydayers. My guy Tyler, Rick, American Santa Cruz. You guys are always in here. Really appreciate it. And Arizona, I wouldn't say this is a pretty one, but I think a gritty, hey, we can win ugly, and I believe we can win even without best players on the team playing, I think means a lot. Arizona needed to find ways to score the ball when the team had a very, very concerted game plan of every time Mo Krivas touches the ball, double team is coming. And it's come from the strong side. Arizona adjusted and said, okay, we'll put our best shooters to enter the ball into the post. Arizona then hit 3 threes. BYU showed zone, flummoxed Arizona for maybe a possession, and then Dell'Orso and Burries were on that left wing, hit a couple threes. Bradley did a nice job diagnosing, but I think Arizona had a whole week to plan, hey, we have struggled when teams double. We have struggled to manufacture easy points, and we can't just rely on Jaden Bradley's heroics late. I think they went about it the wrong way and trying to manufacture points on mid-range jump shots that were contested as opposed to setting ball screens. Arizona set some ball screens. He got off into the mid-range and then passed, and Arizona hit shots. You got to hit shots, and it's not necessarily three-point shooting, but if a team is going to double that blatantly and dare you to shoot, a team that shoots 36% from three, they're going to get punished, and Arizona proved it to the world. And so here are some statistics, and I want to talk about just the progress of this game. Because BYU, we talk about shorthanded Arizona. BYU arguably was missing a more important player to their success than Arizona was. And it's not because Koa Pete's not better than Richie Saunders. He is a better pro prospect. They're both probably all Big 12 players, top 15 players in the conference, easily. What they did is Arizona was missing 2 players. Richie was a huge loss for BYU. But the thing that Arizona has that BYU doesn't is a guy at the same position that can step in and do admirable stuff, and that's Tobe Awaka. So losing Koa doesn't kill Arizona. That's the reason that they can compete against Kansas. It's the reason they can compete against Texas Tech, and why we're frustrated that they lost those games, because it was close, because they should have won. But here are some stats that talk about the progress of a game where Arizona got back to their roots of wearing down another team. Arizona started 15-33 in the first half as opposed to 13-29 for BYU. Arizona hit 6 threes out of the first 14, 2 of 9 for BYU. Arizona +3 on the glass, -4 in the paint, +2 in points off turnovers. So they're narrowly up, right? And they had a nice close to the half. Second half, as we talked about, and this is where I want to talk about the progression and wear and tear of depth. Arizona in the second half was 14-31 from the field. BYU 12-29. A lot of that was late. Arizona hit 3 threes, as did BYU, but Arizona shot better from 3. Neither team got to the line a ton. I was surprised Arizona only shot 4 free throws, and they were free throws at the end by intentional foul from BYU. Points off turnovers, little in favor of BYU, and I think that's what led them to get back in this game. You look at rebounds, Arizona +4. So they stayed ahead in those categories. Points in the paint, dead even in the second half. Fast break points, Arizona 8-2. And really what that means is that Arizona was narrowly better on the glass. They were narrowly better at getting easy shots based on fast break points and second chances throughout the entirety of the game. And even though BYU played with size, they played always two bigs. They played Boop and Keita, or Keita and Ahmed and Boop, whatever combination. They tried to match size with Arizona. Arizona didn't play that much Krivas and Awaka. They kind of stagnated them, and one would play with C.D. Gay. And then if it was Krivas would then play with Karchenkov, who would play the 4 occasionally. And C.D. Gay did a really good job. Showed size, showed coordination, set some screens. And Arizona, workmanlike today. That's the word I think is the most descriptive of this team. It's an egalitarian attack, showing that this team has depth. Even when they're thinned, the guy who's the 7th leading scorer on the team can step up and really play. Dell'Orso led the way, came up big, senior leadership. Jaden Bradley played like a senior point guard should. Orchestrated the troops, found the right spots, picked and choose his right shots to take, which I thought he had taken bad shots for 3 straight games. I thought he shot some silly ones against Oklahoma State, even though it was a blowout. And then he shot bad ones in the 2 losses. He picked his spots, threw lobs, dished out to shooters, did a great job. Krivas, though he wasn't numerically explosive, manned the middle, made it hard for AJ, made it hard for everyone else aside from AJ, and handled double teams well. Didn't turn the ball over. Wish he had kept the ball high and scored on a couple finishes. That would be one of my gripes. And then you look at what Burries did. Burries hit some timely shots, but he wasn't particularly great in this game. So if I told you Braden Burries doesn't play particularly well, Bradley doesn't score a ton of points, Koa Pete is out, Awaka and Krivas combined for 12 points, or maybe it was 10 points and 12 boards between them, you're probably like, oh, shoot, this doesn't go very well. But that's just a testament to Arizona's depth, that when it is thin, that they can step up and score. And they wore down BYU. They gave back some points late. It became a thinner win than you thought. But Arizona, overall in this game, was more sustainably excellent than BYU. BYU is thinned in depth. Arizona is thinned in depth. But Arizona has a recipe to compete in any game. It is play great defense, clean the glass. They are now 26-0 in rebounds. They're always going to rebound well. Even when the paint has been taken away, 3 consecutive games. They were +2 against Kansas, dead even with Texas Tech, and they've lost for the first time in this one in points in the paint. They still did a good job manufacturing points and getting good looks. And it's not just good looks that are open threes that Arizona actually doesn't want to take. They shot good threes, made 9 of 21. That doesn't hurt, obviously. But they found good shots in the mid-range. They found pick and rolls, C.D. Gay's lob, a couple putbacks from Awaka. And BYU does a good job blocking shots. Keba Keita has had a couple blocks. Ahmed, for his lack of coordination near the hoop. And I'm from Utah, so I hear all this stuff like, oh, they got a G Leaguer. I was frustrated as just a fan of sports. I think it's stupid to have a G Leaguer. But the guy can't catch. And he and Keita can't play at the same time. But I digress. The point being is they have size. They have athleticism. And Arizona didn't score in the paint. And you'd say, okay, well, that doesn't bode very well because they wouldn't typically have to throw a ton of bodies to match up size. Well, Arizona commands that respect where you have to throw a ton of bodies. And Arizona then found ways to score even when their bread and butter, scoring inside 5 feet, did not work. Arizona's offense with Koa Pete looks different. There's less spacing. They had Tobe Awaka as a corner spacer. Usually with Koa, he's kind of at the high post, and Krivas or Awaka is on the block. Arizona changed some stuff up. They looked different, and they came up with adjustments. I think it was a nice adjustment and a week in practice from Tommy Lloyd that showed immediate dividends. Very impressive win to me. Bounce back spot. Coming up next, we're going to talk about what is next. It's the Houston Cougars and what is at stake in that game, the 1 seed possibilities, and how I see this playing out in terms of the Koa injury, Aristo, when they come back. Obviously, I'm speculating, but I'll just talk about why I think Arizona may grow as a team from their absence. All that more next on Locked On Wildcats. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals? You guys are basketball fans. Of course you have. And it's live and in person. FanDuel's giving you that opportunity to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost for any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win a trip to the NBA Finals for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. And if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can you win with your pick, win some cash money, but it also sends you the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. It was a heavyweight showdown between number 3 South Carolina and number 7 LSU, and the Gamecocks rose to the occasion. South Carolina secured a hard-fought 79-72 victory to stay atop the SEC standings, using a balanced offensive attack to outlast the Tigers. Tessa Johnson led the way with 21 points, while Raven Johnson added 19. Medina Okot dominated the paint with a double-double, finishing with 12 points and 17 rebounds, while Joyce Edwards chipped in 10 points to round out the scoring. With the statement win, the Gamecocks now turn their attention to a road matchup at number 23 Alabama on Thursday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Welcome back to Locked On Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here. Arizona, back in the win columns, 24-2. And we all know that 24-2 with Arizona's wins is a 1 seed if this tournament starts today. The thing is, it doesn't start today, but Arizona got significant, hiccups. Arizona got significant help from Connecticut. Arizona obviously beat Connecticut, so that we would have had a nice claim to being the 1 seed that stands out. With or without a loss to Houston, I think Arizona and Houston both should be 1 seeds. It would have been dicier if Arizona continued to struggle down the road and UConn only had 2 losses, the Arizona loss as well as the loss to St. John's. Well, they lost at home in stores to Creighton, a poor Creighton team. And McDermott has Hurley's number, and Arizona has insurance in terms of the 1 line. Doesn't matter a ton. Obviously, you got to be playing well, but I just wanted to bring that up as a point. Iowa State helped Arizona in the Big 12 standings because Iowa State beat Houston. Now Arizona and Houston are dead even, and they go to Houston, and that favors Houston. I want to be completely frank, and I'll do a preview that'll come out Friday, and an in-depth preview with Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs. And simply put, Houston deserves to be favored against a Koa Pete and Dwayne Aristotle-less. Well, who knows if Aristote's out, but Koa Pete-less Arizona team, Houston deserves to be favored. They may deserve to be favored anyway. Not a slight on Arizona. It's a compliment to Houston, and they're playing at home. Arizona does things well that bother Houston. Houston usually bullies teams on the glass. Houston usually dominates the glass. Arizona has not lost a game on the glass all season. That really matters. Houston usually forces a ton of turnovers. Arizona's a fairly low turnover team. That was the big key for Iowa State. Iowa State only had 3 turnovers, and they were ready for all those traps and pressure that was put on by Houston in that game. And Iowa State has 3 losses, and they have 3 losses against teams that aren't, other than Kansas, aren't particularly good. So Arizona, I don't think, has to be as threatened on the 1 line by Iowa State yet. They have some work to do. And obviously they play again. That one will be in Tucson. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself there. Addressing some questions. I do think Arizona has a glaring weakness on inbound plays at the end. Rick, you're absolutely right. I don't like that they inbound always to Bradley into the corner with his body weight going to the corner. I think they should run Krivos, or if Pete's healthy in future references or instances, run him from the top of the key and be a flash to the ball, and then he gets rid of the ball. And in Krivos' case, he's a huge target to catch it. And secondly, he is a very good free throw shooter. That leads me to my next thing that's brought on. Krivos can't get this is a comment on here. and it says Krivos can't get a foul to save his life. He's already got a black eye from the last one they didn't call, and he gets poked in the eye. Same thing, nothing. You're right. He doesn't get fouled very, very often. It's really, really strange. I wish maybe he should embellish it. AJ embellishes a lot, and he gets rewarded for it. I do think he has a tendency to drop the ball, and that makes it harder to call foul when the guy's fading away. You're 7-2. Use that frame. Go up, dunk it, and if you don't dunk it, they're going to foul you. So I think there's part of it is Krivos doesn't go up as strong as he should, and part of it is he's big, and you get away with hacking big guys. Anyway, back to the inbounds. The ones where Arizona was able to break the pressure, they went to the middle. They got the ball out wide, took a dribble, broke the immediate pressure, and then threw the ball to the middle, and then had a numerical advantage going forward. Burries made an error by trying to dunk it on Keita, take that ball out, get fouled. You're a good free throw shooter, knock him down. But those are growing mistakes. And I think in a game that was imperfect, I couldn't have been more thrilled with how Arizona played composed at every moment where there felt like, oh, shoot, there's game pressure now. And you don't have some of the guys you usually turn to for answers. A bad game from Braden Burries relative to his very, very high standard. A poor game numerically from Krivos and Awaka. Bradley had a nice game, a very nice game manager game, but hadn't scored a ton. Dell'Orso wasn't on the court for all of it because he's an offense-defense guy. I thought Arizona did a nice job staying composed and having the answers to the questions. Ivan Karchenkov was huge in this game. Defended AJ Dybantsa very, very well. AJ got his, but that's what he's going to do. He's really, really good. Karchenkov hit threes, and I think that could be huge because if Karchenkov believes like, hey, they needed me to step up, I stepped up and passed the test with ease, scored, defended, played with energy, passion, led the team in boards. Karchenkov can do that. If he starts shooting better, which I believe he's a far better shooter than his numbers indicate. He's a good free throw shooter. There's very few players on this team I trust more at the end of a game to shoot free throws than Karchenkov because he's played pro basketball. You play pro basketball, this stuff doesn't faze you. It's a nice, cute thing to go play against college players when you've played against grown men who are physical, and those games mean a ton to all of them all the time. And Karchenkov just looks unfazed out there. If his confidence can grow from three, Arizona unlocks yet another shooter, and I believe they have. Arizona, 75, BYU 68. Arizona stifles a very good offensive team in BYU, and I haven't given a statistic. I mean, I talked about how there was a lack of assists for BYU. They had 7 assists in the game, and it was at one point, I want to say like 13-3. Rob Wright was 1 of 6 in the second half. AJ was good in the second half. He was 8 of 15. But he finished 13 of 28. He took 28 shots to score 35 points. It's not bad, but it's not good. And Rob Wright shot 13 times. Those two, who are going to be their leading scorers in all their games now, the rest of the season, shot 41 times to score 48 points. It's not good enough efficiency. They're not going to win that way. But this is about Arizona. Kudos to them for knowing the game plan. Make those two combine for 70 to beat you. And they tried. Lord knows they tried, but they didn't do it because Arizona's defense and their baseline of defense will keep them in every single game. And if they can get any sort of punch offensively, and that's where the growth comes, these guys now believe that they can step up and score. Now their attention goes back to Koa Pete when Koa Pete's back. And Karchenkov shoots better from three. Aristode, when he comes back, hopefully knocks down some threes. When Dell'Orso is believing in shooting threes, it adds a layer of dynamism offensively to an already stout and excellent defense that'll get you a ton of boards, likely will have more points in the paint than they've had recently because teams won't continue to double that staunchly when Arizona can shoot the ball. It was a prove-it game. It was a must-win. It was a statement and a culture win for Arizona. Thank you guys for tuning in on Locked On Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here, and I will have another breakdown for you out in the morning of this game and then a preview out about the Houston Cougars. Thank you guys for tuning in, as always, to Locked On Wildcats. Really, really appreciate you guys and love to be back to our winning ways. 24-2. Next up's Houston, then Baylor, then Kansas, Iowa State, and Colorado. Houston, very, very difficult to win that one. I want to say that. It's possible, though. And if they beat Houston, probably the winner of the Big 12. If they don't, may not win the Big 12 outright, can still tie, and I still feel pretty good about the 1 seed. It was a big prove-it day today, and I feel pleased with the performance from Arizona. I hope you guys do as well. Thanks for tuning in. Final goodbye. Thanks for the everydayers for tuning into these, and I'll have another update out for you guys with some more statistics and breakdowns of how Arizona won this game out in the morning for you guys. See you guys, and bear down.